Hello, welcome back. I'm Guillermo Martinez, and welcome to this series of instrument making classes. And today we're going to cover Ayacachtlis, and this means rattling stick in the Nahuatl language. These cover the rattles. Now, rattles represent the middle part of our universe or our creation. So it'd be the plane that we dwell in. And so this would be with the animals, with plants, with trees, and with insects. So rattles will be comprised of these four kingdoms. And so these represent this level of creation through here. So we have one here. This is the one that we'll actually be doing in the video, and it's called the Wagmuha in Lakota or Ayacachtli in Nahuatl. It would have different languages. You know, it would be different names in different languages depending on the tribe. But this one is made out of bison, and it's got crystals in it. And this is something that I came up with. And this is this idea came to me from doing weepy ceremonies, or the ceremonies that would be calling in the little people, the weepy spirits, and they would be using rattles like this with flints in them, and the flints would spark, and you would see the rattles spark up at night because you're completely in a dark room. And so the idea came to me to instead of using flints, but using crystals. So this one, I believe, has aventurine, green aventurine in it. And I also use stones from sacred places. And this is a gourd one. This is a shapibo rattle. So that would represent plant. And then we have the deer toe rattle, which represents the spirit of the deer or the four-legged animals. And there's also a rattle made out of butterfly cocoons and also beetle wings, and those will represent the insect kingdom. So everything is represented in these rattles, that aspect of creation. So once again, this is a way Native people would pray and connect with the natural world, and in doing so, you know, uplift their spirit and their soul, and feel like they're, you know, you're making that connection. So these are important ceremonial tools. So, you know, offerings are good, prayer is good before you start any of these projects. Get yourself in a good headspace, and knowing that something that you're creating is reverent, and because if you're going to be using it in a ceremonial way, it's important that you do it in a ceremonial way. You know, that's something that my teacher always stressed. Now that we've covered the spiritual aspect of what these instruments represent, let's go into the workshop and let's make it happen and cover the mechanics of this and be as joyful as we can and reverent as we can. Thank you for listening. Okay, welcome. I'm Guillermo Martinez, and today we're gonna talk about how to make one of these, a Wagmuha or Ayacachtli skin rattle. So we're gonna need some skin, of course, and I went ahead and cut a template out. This is the template that I've been using for a long time. Now let's talk about shapes. Doesn't have to be round. It could be a square, it could be a diamond, it could be many shapes, and you might want to do a little research and maybe look at some older pieces online, you know, some historical pieces, and maybe base your rattle on that. So first of all, you need some skin. So here I have some elk that's really thick, and yeah, it's pretty thick. So I'm gonna lay it down with the flesh side up, which is would have been the inside of the animal. That would be the outside of the rattle. So putting that towards the table. I'm gonna lay it on the skin here, and gonna trace it with this awl. Awl, once again, is a very important tool that you should have if you're gonna be making Native American type projects. And I score it. I need to wear my glasses now because as I age, it's one of the things that happens. And like I said, I can't stress the importance of tools. So your scissors are important. And I'm gonna cut a little bit bigger than my scoring. Just using it as a guide. And the neck part is important. This part here. that's, determines how big of a stick or dowel is going to be inside. And if you cut a form, you can also just lay it down and take your awl and score it. And then we'll cut that. So for these rattles, you're going to need 2 pieces. Because the thing about rawhide, once it's dry, it stays hard, and so you can shape it into any shape that you want. So I got my 2 pieces. And I'm going to take some sinew here. It's actually artificial sinew. Real sinew is actually a tendon of an animal. It's what attaches the muscle to the bone. And so you can use real sinew, but it's hard to find, hard to acquire, because you'd actually have to be a hunter and cut it off yourself. I've been accustomed to the artificial sinew because you can cut really long lengths. And what I've done here is I kind of approximated what I would need for this rattle, which is, I would say, about 22 feet, or approximately 2 feet. It's better to have more than too short, right? And then I'm double threading and then doing a knot here at the end. And there we go. Now it's ready for lacing. Here I have this really nice little tool. This is an awl like this one, but it's works like that. Just by, you can adjust the holes, and I did a starter hole. And going to go through. And pull it almost all the way through. And then you're going to go through the string near the knot, and that'll attach it here at the base. Now, you can start this either on this side or that side, whatever. If you're left-handed, maybe it'd be easier on that side. I'm right-handed, and I'm going to go around this way in something called a whip stitch. Now, for this, I'm going to use a thumb guard, and because you need to protect your thumb, because we're working with rawhide here. We're actually going to go through. Going to go through both. Now I'm using a Glover's needle. Now a Glover's needle is a needle specifically designed to work for leather. And it's got a diamond point. And even on occasion, I've sharpened them to make them really sharp. This one's going in quite easily. And a really important part of making this is that you stitch it really tight, because we're going to inflate this, and those stitches are going to be put to their test. And also, you don't want to have any openings, because we want to hold the material that we're going to have inside the rattle stay inside and not come out or escape. So my stitching is about, let's say, eighth of an inch apart. And I'm making sure that I get both pieces, and I'm getting this pretty close to the edge, but not too far in. And once again, your stitching is something that people will look at. Other craftsmen, other native people, they would see how well your stitchings are. Like I said, I chose a whip stitch. You can do a line stitch, you can do a blanket stitch, but I think the important thing is to make sure that it's very tight, because we're going to expand this skin. You can see doesn't look like much now, but we're going to expand it, and how we expand it could be very surprising to you. So here we go. We're getting to the last stitch, I believe. And so just like sewing clothes, you go through your last stitch. See the loop there? You go in through once, twice, and pull tight. And trim, leaving a little bit extra. So you should have a little bit extra on both sides now. Nicely tight stitch, really, really important. And next thing is we're going to fuse the ends. So you should have nice tight stitching, the 2 ends there on each side. And we're going to fuse the ends using a match. Just get it to the end. All right. Now we're ready for the next step. So now you should have your forms stitched and the ends are fused. Now we can, now the surprising thing is we're going to fill it with sand. So I just use my hand. And you could also, I have this stick, which is just a dowel, and use it to pack it. Now the thing is, the sand's not going to stay in there. We're just going to have the sand push on from the inside. I like a nice bulbous shape because it you get a nice sound with that. You can roll the stones around. And do expect some shrinkage. You know, right now the skin is wet, it's pliable, and we're actually stretching it. But once it starts to dry, it's going to want to shrink and close up on itself. So I really kind of push down hard. And the thing about rawhide, when it's soft like this, you really don't know where it's going to stretch. Sometimes some areas will stretch more than others. So this is just playground sand that I acquired like at Home Depot. It's nothing special. Okay, we're getting close. Well, this thing really wants to stretch. Wow, what an unusual shape. It's starting to look like a hammerhead shark. Kind of packed as much sand as I can get in there. So you can see it took quite a bit of sand, actually. And next thing you want to do is have a cork ready, something you can cork it with. I'm using this dowel that I tapered. There it is. There's the form. Don't worry about any sand that's on the exterior. You know, once it's dry, you can clean it up if you like. But now the next thing is to let that dry, probably a day to 2 days. And we're going to go stick that outside and let it dry. Okay, so this is one that's been out for about 4 days, drying. And we're going to take the cork out and pour out the sand. You can see it comes out nice and easy. And surprising thing is now it's hard and it's kept its form because now the skin's dry. Looking at the stitching here, it looks really good, nice and tight. And there's no gaps. So it's going to hold everything really good. So we're going to make sure all the sand is out. And we'll move on to the next step, which is finding a handle. So I can use this as a gauge because that was the one that was in there. And that's about a 3/4 inch, I believe. 3/4 to 7/8. So that's about what we need. So I'm going to go make a handle for this. So I have a 10-inch piece of walnut that's 1 inch square. And first thing I do is mark centers. And next thing is secure your piece to the lathe. And before I even turn the machine on, I just want to let you know this is not the only way to do it. You can, like I said, you can use a piece of willow branch. You can use driftwood or, you know, any kind of material. So we're going to attach the piece and get it going. Okay, so we're on to the next thing. So I got my handle here. It's a walnut. I turned it on the lathe and put a finish on it. And you can see it's a little big. So I'm just going to take my knife here and whittle down the front a little bit and see where I need to go. Okay, it's in there and nice and snug. Perfect. But you can see there's no sound. So now let's come to these pile of stones here. Let's just take some of these really big stones here that are in this pile. Now these stones come from a beach up in the Big Sur area. I'm always looking to gather materials. And So we're just going to get these really big chunky pebbles. See, there's a nice little handful there. And we'll just throw them in here. It's a nice sound. Well, let's put the handle in. So it's nice and staccato, really kind of sharp. Let's pour those out. Put those over there. Now let's get this kind of this medium grade material. Put some of that in here. Small little handful there. It already sounds different. See, the sound is completely different. It's got a nice, see, I can see some of the sand coming out still. That's okay. It's just cleaning itself. And we'll pour those out, put those here. And now we're gonna take these crystals. This is amethyst. Let's put these amethysts in there. It's even a finer sound, softer. So I do like that, but what if we combine it with some of this medium stuff? And then maybe add one nice round big one. Something will roll around nicely. This one looks pretty good. So now we got, I don't know if you can hear that one stone just rolling. That's that one big green one. There you go. That's a good rattle. So just for a little bit of extra fun, we're going to add a little bit of this rose quartz, which is actually a little bit bigger than the amethyst. And maybe one peridot, or maybe a ruby. We'll do a ruby. So these stones I acquire from different sources, and those of you who are into stones will appreciate that. So you can see there's quite a bit of crystals that go in here. Whoops. Okay. Oh, I like that. I mean, sound-wise, it sounds good. It sounds great. And then now to completely fix that, we're gonna put a little bit of wood glue here and glue the form now with the material that we've decided is appropriate. Clean that up. Okay, and we'll let that sit up for just a moment. Okay, so here we are about ready to finish this wagmuha, or this Ayacachtli. So the glue is already set up. It's pretty firm, not going anywhere. And so I want to finish the seam here. You could actually leave it like this if you like, but I'm going to finish the seam. It's one of the things I like. I like to do nice clean work. So I have some scrap deer skin here, and I cut a thong as well with a rotary cutter. And this is actually a cutting mat, so I usually can do it right on here. So I'm gonna cut a piece here, about a 1/2 inch wide. Doesn't have to be too long. You know, just enough to cover that seam. As you can see, it'll work just perfect. So to hold it on, I'm gonna use a little contact cement. And people are always asking me, like, what would Native people do, like, back in the day? Well, back in the day, probably they would just use, instead of contact cement, they would use hide glue, which works a lot like this. It's actually boiled down hoof and tendon, that and skin that, you know, you've heard the term, you know, about referring to horses, they turn it into glue. You go into the glue factory. Well, that's how they made glue. So we're gonna wrap this carefully. I think right there is good. And I have my little anvil here, my awl. So I'm going to be using this nail and just to kind of, we're going in through a skin, really hard skin and also hardwood. So I'm going to kind of pre-start a hole by taking this awl and doing a small hole. And a step further, because sometimes you can bend the nail, is pre-drill with a very small drill the size of the nail. You have to make sure you don't go too far. Set that aside. See how I'm on the anvil? And now all right, very good. And the reason for the nail is because these can also be used as drumsticks, like on a drum. And you want this not to come off. So a mechanical fastener, like a nail or a screw, will really help in that. And just gonna trim this here into some fringe to make that leftover piece look a little nicer. And then got the strap here. Usually on my handles, I usually cut a little section here where this could fit right in. Put it in the groove. Double knot. Bring the two ends together. Put both ends through the loop. And here you could also put beads if you like. Before, you can always undo the knot, slide on beads and so forth to make it decorative, add feathers. And now you have a rattle with a strap to put your wrist in. So if you rattle ever drops, you can always, it doesn't fall to the ground, and it's always easy to be drumming. And if you need a rattle, the rattle's right there. So that's how you make this wagmuha or Ayacachtli. And you saw that it's got rose quartz, amethyst, and some beach stones from Big Sur, and one big green stone, which there she is. Okay. Thank you for watching. And remember, always do it with a good heart, good spirit, and conscientiously. And it's a good way to use any leftover materials from drum making and so forth. And good luck with your projects. Thank you.